Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ruffled Rowlet and welcome back to a brand new Top 10. Today guys, we're taking a look at the Top 10 best Pokemon ROM hacks of 2020. Now keep in mind, some of these ROM hacks are older and have just been continuously developed, so don't assume that these are all from this year and being, started this year, because ROM hack development has kind of gone down in recent years, as you may have noticed. There's less and less ROM hacks coming out, at least from English developers. On the other hand though, there's a lot of fan games being made still. Loads of fan games actually being made by a lot of the Spanish community, the Portuguese, Brazilian, French communities, even German communities, and we're making loads of those. So I may cover those in a future video, but today we're taking a look at mainly the top 10 best ones you can check out in general in terms of ROM hacks this year. Let's get started. And kicking off this list at number 10 is going to be one of my personal favorites, which is Pokemon Unbound. Now, Pokemon Unbound was started back in 2016 in terms of development and has made progress over the years. The game is actually really quite unique in my honest opinion. It has got a really unique and specific story that I don't really want to spoil for you guys, but I will show a few screenshots here on the screen so you guys can see what it kind of looks like. Now, as for the game, it does also come with a certain set of features. It, for example, has updated graphics, so it is a Fire Red ROM hack, but it has graphics that are updated to more like the Generation 4 style, which is Diamond and Pearl, Platinum, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, right? And this includes both the tiles, the overworlds, overworlds, as well as the sprites, and even battle backgrounds have been changed to fit more with the Gen 4 style, but it's a Fire Red ROM. Now, they also have updated Pokemon. They have Pokemon from Generation 1 to Generation 7. There could potentially also be Pokemon from Generation 8 added eventually, but right now, that's really all they have, Gen 1 to Gen 7. They also have updated, mechanics. For example, there is physical/special split and Mega Evolution, and they also have the black and white repel system, as well as X and Y's capture experience system, and this is all essentially inside of this, so it is pretty solid. The game also has eggs hatching at level 1, day and night system, sideways stairs, running indoors, trainer facing, a black and white 2 repel system, the physical/special split of course, megas of course, which we talked about, new HMs such as rock climb and dive, hidden grottos, decapitalization, IVs and natures highlighted, X and Y capture experience system, inverse battles. There are also more items, new music, and side quests in the game. And of course, I'm a big fan of side quests. It's always fun when you've got extra things you can do on the side if you really want to. It's not something that's necessary or needed, but it's always there. And the game is making progress, right? It's been a little bit slow in recent times, but it's honestly a really cool looking game. I think it's personally one of my favorite ROM hacks of all time. I remember playing it back in the day and I actually loved it back in like 2017 and whatnot. When I started playing it, it was fantastic, and hopefully it keeps, developing and eventually gets finished. Next up is one of the coolest projects ever. It is Pokemon GS Chronicles. Now, this project is really interesting because it's basically a sort of remake, if, you were to kind of put it into words. It's sort of a remake of Heart Gold, Soul Silver. So basically, they're trying to, essentially do the same plot, but, still change a few things here and there by surprising you with new elements. But basically, what is new in the game? Well, a renewed storyline, keeping the essence of the original games, of course. New events never seen before in any, Gold, Silver, Crystal remake. Maps based off of the Heart Gold, Soul Silver ones, which is always awesome. Favorite art style of mine. Introducing also Mega Evolution into this and into the main storyline, which they haven't added yet in the current beta, but they will add eventually. They also have a new tile system. They have day and night cycle, wild Pokemon switched depending on the time, which is also really cool. There's also a original soundtrack from Heart Gold, Soul Silver, which also is going to get a little bit of rework in there. There's, of course, the physical/special split, new Pokedex with some Gen 4 to 6 Pokemon. Hopefully they add some Generation 7 and maybe even Generation 8 Pokemon. That'd be cool. And also they're introducing the Poke Rides, an item that essentially replaces the outdated HM system, which is normally in all ROM hacks and that sort of stuff. They basically switched it out here, which again, I don't mind. It's kind of interesting. There's also a type chart update, new puzzles for some areas, plenty of updated graphics, like the backgrounds and etc., like the bag, trainer card. Almost everything has been kind of changed, kind of in general when it comes to the graphics. There's also new locations in Johto and Kanto, updated Pokemon cries to match the Generation 7 and 8 ones, new locations for some Pokemon, in-game, in-battle trainer messages, and yeah, loads of other stuff. Honestly, there's a plethora of things there. There's also daily Wonder Trade with in-game trainers. There's a bunch of stuff to work with. So basically, you've got a lot of things in this game, and honestly, it's really cool looking as a game. I think it looks really sick, and if you are a fan of Johto, and if you are a fan of Gold, Silver, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, etc., and even Crystal, this is sort of the game, for you if you want to go back and experience that as a bit of a nostalgia trip with a bit of an updated flair to it. I think this is a perfect game for that, as it's basically, it is Heart Gold, Soul Silver in a nutshell, but it's still different in a way, and that's kind of what I think is interesting about it. It's kind of like you already know what it is, but it's still somewhat different. So I'd highly recommend checking it out. It's really cool. Next up, we've got a really unique game coming in at this spot, and that's going to be Pokemon Coral. Now, what is Pokemon Coral? Well, ladies and gentlemen, this game is really unique. It's a Pokemon Crystal kind of remake type of game. It's more or less a hack, right? It's not really a remake. It's a straight up hack with a brand new region in it, and it's really, really cool. So the region is called Onwa, and currently the demo in the game, which you can play, takes you to about the 3rd gym, so I'd say it's definitely worthwhile checking out. The game is really interesting because it's like this brand new setting, and that's always cool with these sort of ROM hacks, right? When they make their own regions and kind of interesting new things, and honestly, I think it's going to be quite unique for those who want to check it out. As for features, it's got an entirely new region, as mentioned. You can explore it with a brand new story to experience. There's Pokemon from all the 7 generations. Yes, 7. So Generation 8's not included, but it goes all the way until Gen 7. So you can see probably Rowlet and stuff in here if you're, you know, looking for that. Essentially, it's in the game. They've got like custom sprites and all that, so definitely worthwhile checking out just for that sake, right? But there's also a choice of 6 starters from the first 2 generations of Pokemon, so Gen 1, Gen 2, right? And the entirely new soundtrack featuring songs composed specifically for this game. There's of course the physical special split, right? That's still there. They've added the fairy type to the game, moves from newer generations of certain Pokemon, rebalanced move pools that are more in line with current generations rather than the old ones, which are kind of broken, to say the least. There's also running shoes with unique running animations. Change the color of the player sprite at any time by visiting the wardrobe in your room. There's loads of stuff here, okay? There's just loads of stuff that you can check out, and just like there's so much in this game, and I honestly highly recommend checking it out. It's a really cool little fan game, ROM hack, whatever you want to call it, right? That's very different from what you normally see, right? Not a lot of people tend to go back and make their own versions of these old school Pokemon games with the old school graphics, as it's so far back, a lot of people forget about it. But I wanted to still put this in the list because I find it to be really cool that somebody actually made this, and it looks actually really good. Next up on the list is going to be Pokemon Nameless version. Now, you've probably seen this game a little bit here and there, but this is a new game that also features a brand new region. It is kind of interesting. It does use new sets of tiles, but it is a fire red ROM in its essence, right? It's still a fire red ROM, so it's got the fire red graphics and style, and like the battles and whatnot looks pretty much the same. But as for the tiles and stuff, they are different. And I must say one thing about this game, it is pretty big, okay? It's got a pretty large region to explore, which is the Cyan region. It's also, you got like a few other ones. You got the Sevi Islands and the Lande region as well in this, so there's some real stuff from like real Pokemon. Then there's also a bunch of like, you know, custom made stuff, and also features Pokemon from Generation 4 to Generation 8. So yes, you'll see some Gen 8 Pokemon in this, which I think is probably the coolest part about this game, is that yes, Gen 8 Pokemon are in it, so that's going to be awesome. There, however, are no gyms. Instead, you have battle arenas that take the place of gyms. There's also real Mega Evolution in these games, which I'm not sure what that's different between like that and like normal Megas, but that's there. There's no Pokemon League in the Cyan region. Instead, it's a tournament takes place on the Cyan League, so it's kind of a little bit like, you know, Generation 7 in a sense. And overall, it's got like a half open world as well as loads of other stuff in it. It's a kind of very unique and different game, and I'd highly recommend checking it out. Next up, though, is the Pokemon game known as Pokemon Canlara Ultimate. So, this is the final version of the Canlara Adventures, so this is basically like a set of things, and the game has been patched up and all that sort of stuff, and you can check it out. It features quite a few different things. For example, you can travel to a new region, which is known as Canlara. You can explore a brand new story, catch a Pokemon. Approximately, there are about 430 different Pokemon, all the way from Generation 1 to 7. There is, of course, the physical slash, you know, special split, as per usual, EXP on Pokemon captures, running indoors, just a bunch of stuff. And as for the way the game looks like, it's got the general fire red like style to it. It's basically a fire red kind of like, you know, ROM hack, like your normal fire red ROM hack, but with a few unique things, like for example, like this demon Pokemon, right, which I think are kind of unique. You got Demon Ninetales, which is like demon slash ice type. I think that's going to be the coolest part about this game, is definitely like the different kind of Pokemon and these different new things. And it's basically like the, you know, like the fairy type is in here, and there's also the brand new one, of course, the demon one. So it's kind of unique in my opinion and different, which I, you know, want to recommend for you guys to check out. Next up, we have an old but gold classic. We've got Pokemon Orange Islands. This is a complete beta at the moment. I think it's a 5.4 release, and it is out. It is basically you just going and rethreading the story of Ash conquering, like, through, you know, well, the Orange Islands, I guess, right? It's like you going through that. And yeah, it is honestly pretty cool. There are, so far, you know, in the games, you've got, like, the Orange Archipelago, of course. You got the 4 gym leaders and badges to get, new sprites, new tiles, new maps, Pikachu as a starter, and possibility to Ash get other Pokemon early in game, and all Pokemon from Generation 1 plus Tracy's Meryl from Generation 2. There's a physical special split, etc. No Pokeball taken upon failed capture. Items to use for Dive, Whirlpool, Rock Smash, and Rock Climb, so you don't have to like go through the process of, you know, getting HMs instead. Basically, it's just a cool little remake of, you know, the anime into a freaking game. It's actually pretty cool, and I'd highly recommend it. It's a old but gold type of, you know, game. It's old but gold. So next up on the list is going to be Pokemon Grape, and now this is essentially a Pokemon Red ROM hack. Yeah, Pokemon Red. It's really odd to think about that, right? Because there's not really that many Pokemon Red ROM hacks usually, but this one is there, and of course it features a lot of really interesting stuff. Of course, a brand new kind of region for you to explore, which is really unique, if I must say so myself. It's really unique, it's different, and on top of that, also, you've got Pokemon, of course, from newer generations in it, and generally, the story is unique. So basically, it's set in 1999, and you will have to impersonate a former baseball player who has to participate in a deadly competition for the ownership of Pokemon, or the Pokemon League, that may avoid a war between two regions, Fraijo and Kelgo. On top of that, some survivors from Team Rocket, who had fled Kanto after the failed Silph coup, have migrated there to join this secret cult in order to interfere in this competition and start some nasty plot, and you will have to save the world, basically. It's really cool. It's got a lot of interesting aspects to it. There are, of course, other things in the game as well. You can catch all 248 Pokemon featured in this game, including Pokemon from generations ranging from the 1st to the 6th, and even get a few new Pokemon as well as like Fakemon, that sort of stuff. You got 11 legendary Pokemon to capture and new ones with their own special events in the game, and notably Mew under the truck at the port and Ho-Oh, like in Fire Red and Leaf Green. So honestly, really unique stuff in this, and I think it's going to be a great game for those who just want to have a little bit of an old school experience, but with something new to it. So next up on this list is Pokemon Scythe. Now, Pokemon Scythe's got a little bit of a different kind of feeling to it because it's running with these kind of more Generation 5 style graphics, and you'll notice that when you play the game, it's got more like Gen 5 kind of art style, you know, black and white inspired art style, so to say, and you get to explore a whole new region, the Colon region, and also a part of Hoenn gets to be explored in the post-game in this, and this is only once the full game is released. Right now, it's still like, you know, in beta stages and that sort of stuff, so it's not really fully finished just yet, but you've got that, you've got updated game mechanics, sideways stairs, etc. Just the general stuff is there, but of course it also has got its own unique story to explore, and of course new explorable region, and if you're looking for more like a Generation 5 style of game, then this is definitely for you. Next up is another old school Pokemon ROM hack. This is Pokemon Silver ROM hack. So this is Pokemon Dark Energy, and this again is another game that's following that kind of path, but this one's really interesting. So you've got to the world of Sudden, and it's the year 1571, so this is a long time ago, and it's been about 1,000 years since the Great War, the crisis ended. The world has since then, you know, just been having a long-lasting peace, and basically new characters now show up, shady characters, but I don't really spoil that for you. The game, though, is basically like an RPG, more or less, you know, like an RPG game based on Pokemon. It's got a unique storyline, it's got optional side quests along the, you know, main story development, that sort of stuff. There's basically a lot of stuff here that you'll see in a lot of the other ones as well, and honestly, this one is kind of different. I mean, it's a silver hack, right? So it's based on silver, and I don't know, man, it's kind of fun to see these sort of games like show up, so definitely check it out if you want to. So next up on the list, and finally, we have Pokemon Gaia. Now, this has been a long-standing Pokemon fan game, ROM hack, whatever you want to call it, right? That's been developed for well over a decade at this point. It's been really long, right? And this is honestly one of the coolest, like, you know, ROM hacks you'll find. It's got a ton of unique stuff to it. For example, a unique story as per usual. It's also got, like, a ton of custom work in it. And I've got to say, the story is probably the best part about this game, right? It's very much a game that kind of, like, wants to take you on this kind of, you know, archaeological kind of path, and I think that's what's really cool about it. So honestly, Gaia is just super unique, and I'd recommend just checking it out and playing it, as it is somewhat towards more the complete side of things. I'm not sure if it's fully complete, but I think the latest version is like pretty far towards like the completion of the game, I'm pretty sure. I mean, it's still in beta, but it should be almost like towards the finishing parts of it, as far as I can tell. But definitely a worthwhile game to check out. And yeah, that's basically it for this list, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy, drop a like down below. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Bye bye and peace out.